Hello and welcome in, friends, to Week 16 in the NFL. It is Sports from the Couch here on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and we make our confidence picks as we wind down the season in the NFL. Hopefully, each and every one of you has made a couple of dollars, has made a couple of good picks, have made the finals in your fantasy football leagues, and have enjoyed the season. If you are a Bears fan, it looks like the season has come to the ending we all thought it was going to, at least halfway through the season. In the beginning of the season for a lot of people, and for myself, I thought this would be a possibility, but we get into that in just a little bit. And of course, we'll make our picks for this week. But if you're here in the great city of Chicago, you obviously know that the playoff hopes, the dim playoff hopes of the Chicago Bears ended against the Green Bay Packers, dropping 21-13. They are now 7-7. The Packers 11-3. Minnesota won. Seattle won. All the worst case scenarios happened for this Bears team. But I guess philosophically, we need to break this down. I mean, if you're here in Chicago, if you're a sports fan, if you're listening to this, you've obviously already watched, NFL Morning or Today in the NFL, or Inside the NFL, or ESPN NFL, all the other outlets, right? You already know what the X's and O's are. You already know what it is to talk about Mitchell Trubisky, about man versus zone. You know what it's like to talk about Matt Nagy and how he runs his offense. What it's like about this offensive line. Why did they switch off? Why did it have to be an injury to make them to switch on the offensive line? There's a lot of conversation that we've had X's and O's. But philosophically, this is where it's always come down to for me. It's so hard to maintain success in the NFL unless your structure has been built from the top to the very bottom. Organizations like Pittsburgh, who are in it right now. And we could go on there. If you're watching us make our picks here on Confidence Picks in the Mercado Airwaves Network on YouTube or on Facebook, you could see it right here in the standings. Patriots clinching a playoff spot. The Bills clinching a playoff spot. And we'll get to the Bills in a second, but it's more about New England. Obviously, it's the structure, sustainability. Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, Tom Brady. And it finds a way to work, huh? The Bills making a little noise, drafting well, bringing in key free agents, building on that defense. The Chiefs, Andy Reid. What else do you need to say? The Ravens, again, one of these teams. Is it Ozzie Newson? I can't think of his last name, but the front office is amazing in Baltimore. And in the AFC South, we're finding out what's going to happen between the Texans, Titans, and now the Colts out of it, but the Texans have been hanging around. The Colts for the longest time hung around. There was the sustainability. But then you look in the other side. Let's go to the NFC. And obviously in the NFC East, it's all garbage. We don't even have to get into that. But Seahawks, 11-3. The Niners, 11-3. The Niners, obviously in the 90s and in the 80s, were the definition of that. But it takes time. Things do come up and down. But we're seeing again that it works out, right moves, and you get hot at the right time. But Seattle, staying right in there. Obviously the Packers, the Vikings, the Saints in the crazy. And remember when the NFC South was always crazy? We didn't know exactly who was going to come out of it. Except the Saints are always hanging out there. Always at 500. Sometimes get that big season, but always right there. If you're a Bears fan, you didn't see that. You haven't seen that in 30 years. And that's the frustrating part, the philosophical conundrum of being a Bears fan is loving this organization, it being a stalwart of the National Football League. But they haven't won. This is not a winning culture. This is not a winning football club. It's not. One Super Bowl. In the modern era. I don't care about all the championships. That's great for legacy. But let's keep it real. The Super Bowl is the championship of all championships in the biasness of us Americans. But to us, that is the championship. And this team has won. But it's one of the oldest organizations in all of the sport. It's the classic team that has the tradition, even the way they run the front office. It's family owned. There's no chain of success. And the worst part is they've had great players. That's the thing that's kept them relevant, is that they've had really great Hall of Fame players that have been wasted. Wasted. And the tease of the glimmer of hope every few years of them having that little bloop. But then go up north to Green Bay. That's infuriating. Now, I don't know what's worse, being the Vikings and having to bite at it constantly and never cashing in. But the idea is it's plausible that you can make your organization hover there. And when they have an opportunity, they clinch it. They take advantage of it. This Bears team has not done that. And this new regime has not given you any confidence from it. They jumped the gun. Took everybody by surprise. Little film got on them. And they have not answered the way you would want them to. I think Mitchell Trubisky's last month has been okay. But the narrative is the narrative. And here's the thing. The truth of the matter is this. You can't argue when somebody wants to bring up Ryan Pace went up to get him. You know, I know everybody wants to say, well, they didn't draft Mahomes and Watson, so you got to move forward. The problem is, though, they had that in their control. It's not like, Mitchell Trubisky was so happened to be in the same draft. No, he was picked and moved up ahead of to get than these two studs that we're seeing right now. Now, again, the argument of if they were here under John Fox and now Matt Nagy, would they be the guys that they are in Houston and Kansas City? That's all fine and dandy. That is a real thing in some multiverse, but that's not the conversation. Whereas our eye tests do not tell us that. It's what I've seen right now. It's frustrating because last year was an opportunity for them. And they talk as if they've won it something. Like they've won something in this league. And it's hard. I know this is not being critical of them, of a toughness or them not wanting it. This is just the reality of where they're at and expectations. So it was an unfortunate turn for this Bears team, and now they play the Kansas City Chiefs on prime time, and we'll have to see. Really, this is crunch time for a lot of guys on this roster. There's going to be turnaround on this team. And these next two games are a big part of it. But speaking of big games, why don't we get into Week 16, and we start off with Saturday games. No Thursday games this week. So we start with the 3 Saturday games, Houston and Tampa Bay. It looks like Mike Evans won't play, and we'll see if Chris Godwin does. So I'm going to go with Houston in this matchup. They need to go ahead and clinch up their division. We have Buffalo and New England. Very interesting divisional matchup. Big implications to see who comes up and wins the AFC East. I'm going to go with Buffalo in the upset. I'm not going to put a lot of points on it, but I'm going to go with Buffalo, surprising people. We have the Rams and the Niners. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers in this matchup and really going ahead and, again, try to keep up Seattle. They're going to want to host everything in the West Coast. We have the Panthers and the Colts. The Colts just trying to save face the rest of the season, trying to end the season at 500. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft. I'm going to go with the Colts in this matchup. Carolina going to get up there and see if they end up drafting a quarterback in the draft in April. We have the Giants taking on the Washington Slurs. I will go with Washington in this matchup. I think they're going to put up some points, and I need Terry McLaurin to put some points up for my fantasy team in one of my championships. We have the Saints and Titans. Titans have been showing up, but I think now the Saints are, if they're going to be the team that represents the NFC, then this has to be kind of the start of it. And having home field in the Dome could really just put them over, and they don't have to play in Minnesota. So I will say keep New Orleans wins this matchup. We have the Ravens and the Browns. I think Baltimore's going to run up and down Cleveland. I feel bad. I know this is the divisional matchup and it might be tough, but I think Baltimore's going to come out big time in this one because, again, they have aspirations to win a Super Bowl. I don't think they're slowing down anytime soon. The Steelers and the Jets, I want to check that out in the standings really fast. Let's see how the Steelers are. We were talking about how bad the Bears have hung around. The Steelers, an organization with Mike Tomlin and the Hines family, I think, right? And this is unbelievable that they have nobody, down to Duck as their quarterback, and they are 8-6. Right in it. That's crazy. And they're going to need a win. And the Jets are a perfect matchup for that. Good out for Pittsburgh. Steelers, again, an organization that just has the foundation. We have the Bengals and the Dolphins. Who would have thought the Bengals would be the heavy favorite? But yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins in this one. Cincinnati right in their way to a number 1 draft pick. We have the Jaguars and the Falcons. I'll go with Atlanta in this matchup. I'll go Jacksonville in this matchup. The quarterbacks are playing for something. Guys are playing for contracts. I'm going to go with Jacksonville. And again, if you're new to this, you'll see how many confidence points I have in them. We have the Raiders and the Chargers. Watch the Raiders win now. But I guess in this matchup, Oakland could put up a lot of points, but I'm going to go with the Chargers in this matchup since they're quote-unquote home. We have the Lions and the Broncos. Oh boy, hot garbage game. I'm going to go with Denver in this matchup. We have the Cowboys and the Eagles. Somebody's got to win this division. Somebody gets to host a home playoff game. Dallas seems a little hurt. Philly is literally one of the most broke down teams in the NFL. I'm going to go with Dallas in this game. Screw it. Let's go with Dallas. How about at some point, it's got to break through on Dallas' side. I know we all like to make fun of them and screw the Cowboys. No offense. But like that idea of like how people feel about the Cowboys and the hatred, kind of like the Yankees. But it's got to work out of their end in some way in recent history. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this matchup. We have the Cardinals and Seattle. Seattle's going to win this one. They have to keep up with the Niners. That's for sure. That's going to be a big one. They have to keep up with the Niners. I think Seattle's a dangerous team. If you have to play through Seattle up into the NFC Championship game, it's a tough out. That's a tough out. Russell Wilson will break a lot of hearts. I'm telling you. We have Kansas City and Chicago for Sunday Night Football. We don't really have to talk too much about it. Kansas City is going to win this game. It really comes down to how does Mitchell Trubisky answer this game. There's a lot riding on it for Chicago Bear fans, for the organization. Will they bring him back? Are they going to sign him? Do they want to go long-term? What is the future of this organization? If you finish 9-7, 8-8 after going 12-4, I know there was a lot of hype and expectations, but you could at least say you're not like the Cleveland Browns. Sorry, Cleveland. It's tough. It's going to be a tough. It's going to be a tough eulogy for this Bears team, and I feel like we want to give it already, but we have to see how this plays out. Because when we look back come January, come February, come March, hell, come July, we're like, oh, that 9-7 record at 8-8, it's just, that's the way time works. We'll look at it differently. But I'm going to go with Kansas City in this matchup. And in a heavyweight matchup on Monday Night Football, Packers, Vikings. Aaron Rodgers is the best player on the field any given game, right? I think we can all agree on that. Maybe not specifically this season, but the man's dangerous. Green Bay doesn't look right. They're a very interesting team that has a good record, but I don't feel they're a dominant team, that they're a favorite team. I think Minnesota is better than Green Bay. I'm going to go with the Vikings in this matchup. It's going to be interesting to see. At some point, Kirk Cousins has to play well on a primetime huge game, especially on Monday night. I think it's Monday night that he has a bad record on. Let me know if that's correct or not, but I'm going to go with the Vikings in this matchup. So why don't we go ahead and put our confidence points now and see who we're favoring and who we think we can make some moolah off of. And I think for sure we're going to go with Houston, New Orleans. I'm just telling you guys the teams that I have the most confidence points going with. Throwing up Seattle. So that's what we'll start with as our huge favorites. And if you're following us wherever you get your media on YouTube or on Facebook, thank you guys. You can watch us actually make our picks. And on podcasts, jump over on youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves. And we're on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can watch our videos as we make our picks all season long. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to put 16 points on Seattle over Arizona. And, of course, if you're new on the program, we'll recap all this before we head out. So we'll put 16 on Seattle. I'm willing to bet on it. I'll put 15 on New Orleans. I'm a New Orleans mark right now, so I'll go with them. We will also put a bunch of points on. I'm willing to do it, too. I like Baltimore. Screw it. I'll put 14 on Baltimore. And I'll put 13 on Houston. I will then put as I look through some of these picks, I will put. Ooh, there are some interesting matchups. I'm not willing to put all these points on Kansas City. Although I do think they're going to beat the Bears. The Bears are a team they're going to finish 500, so they got to win some games. So it could be a trap game for Kansas City. Kansas City needs to kind of set themselves up for a playoff run too. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. I'll keep looking on. Do I like San Francisco over the Rams enough? Yeah, you know what I do. For this season, it's just one of those years. I'll go ahead and trust in San Francisco. They had a rough game last week, so I think Jimmy G will have a better week. So we keep looking on. Not willing to put a lot of points on Miami. I guess Kansas City will go up somewhere around here. Buffalo, I'm willing to put, again, like down right here in the middle. Not willing to put a lot of points on Chargers or Denver or Dallas. I guess Minnesota I'll throw up here in the middle. This is a tough week. A lot of tough matchups. I'm willing to put a little bit more on the Colts and Washington. But I guess, you know what? I'll put 10 on Kansas City, on Chicago. I guess this is where I'm going to leave the list. To be honest, I'm not feeling great about all of the matchups. I'm really not feeling great about all the matchups, but there are some interesting ones. But I think I'll leave it right here. So here's where I'm leaving it for this weekend. I guess it's more risk management, but it's a tough week. I have 16 points on the Seahawks beating the Cardinals, 15 confidence points on the Saints beating the Titans, 14 points on Baltimore over Cleveland, 13 confidence points on Houston beating the Buccaneers, 12 confidence points on the Rams losing to the 49ers, 49ers beating the Rams, 11 confidence points on the Colts over the Panthers, 10 confidence points on the Chiefs beating the beloved Bears, 9 confidence points on the Skins, the Slurs beating the Giants. I got 8 confidence points on the Steelers beating the Jets, 7 confidence picks Miami beating Cincinnati, 6 confidence picks on the Bills beating New England, 5 on the Vikings over the Packers, 4 confidence picks on the Jags over the Falcons, 3 on the Chargers beating the Raiders, 2 on the Broncos beating the Lions, and 1 on Dallas over Philadelphia. Thank you all so much for joining us for Week 16 in our confidence picks here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Make sure you guys check out all our interviews with athletes and celebrities. You guys could check out our recent one with Max Holloway before UFC 245. It was a really cool conversation. We all hope you enjoy all the weeks, your holiday, and we will see you for Week 17 in the NFL. But until then, enjoy the game Saturday and Sunday for Week 16. For everybody here at Mercado Airwaves and Sports from the Couch, I'm Mike Mercado.